It is getting incredibly difficult to keep track of the sheer number of SUV and car segments that are there today, because it used to be compact SUV, mid-sized SUV, full-size SUV, and then, oh my god, such a big SUV. Now there is a mini SUV, there is a micro SUV, there's subcompact SUV, mid-size, and then everything keeps on going on beyond that. But we have now got a new entrant into the micro SUV space in the form of the Hyundai Exter.
Okay. Context. The Hyundai Venue isn't a particularly large SUV to begin with, but the Exter slots below the Venue both in terms of size and price, and it's going to go up against the likes of the Tata Punch and the Citroën C3. The Venue operates in the 8 to 13 lakh rupee space.
Correct.
So the Exter expectedly will play in the 6 to 10 lakh rupee space.
Correct.
Right? But before we carry on, what is the Exter, and more importantly, why do we need something like the Exter?
Okay, from a manufacturer's point of view, obviously they just want to milk this budget space as much as possible, and for them it is a simple question of offering a simple and SUV mirror, as it were, for an existing product line. So how you have the GLC for the C class, how you have the GLE for the E class,
the Q3 for the A4, the Q5 for the A6, the Q7 for the A8.
Closer to home and closer to Hyundai's own product portfolio. Let's take a look at how the lineup used to be, right? It used to start with the Santro in the hatchbacks, go up to the Nios, and then come to the i20. The Exter is supposed to sit as an SUV parallel to the Grand i10 Nios.
Got it.
Because it's the underpinnings are also shared with the Nios itself, and the relationship is going to be similar to that of the i20 and Venue, wherein they're in that similar price space but different body styles. And the idea here is to maximize volumes as much as possible, because
a for-profit organization will try to milk profit at every given instance.
That is the factoid today from Captain Obvious right here. But let's set some perspective, right? The Grand i10 Nios, for example, they're retailing about 8,000 to 9,500 units of that every month. The i20 does a little bit less than that. But the Venue, which is the pricier option than these two, sells between 9,500 to 11,000 units every month. So from Hyundai's perspective, they're figuring that, okay, one, we've got the platform. Two, we know that people like the Grand i10 Nios's packaging. Three, we know that people like the SUV body style and are willing to pay more for it. So why not? Okay,
so the obvious question is, why should I just not pick a Venue instead? Because the budget's going to overlap so tightly, right? But you kind of need to be clear as to why you're buying your Venue in the first place. So sure, you could get a mid-spec Venue for roughly the same amount of money, but you will get more back seat space, you will get a better boot space, but you will be letting go of features, because you look at what the Exter is bringing to the table. The top spec variant is supposed to have a sunroof. That is something that is available only in the top two trims of the Venue. It's getting a dash cam that only the Venue N-Line N8 gets, right? Then there's talk of it getting 6 airbags, TPMS as standard. This is confirmed, right?
So it's going to be very well loaded.
Yeah, it is going to be very, very, very feature packed.
And it's, I think it's getting only, I know it's getting the 1.2 liter 4-cylinder Kappa petrol engine.
Right.
And this is an engine we're familiar with. It's going to be offered with a 5-speed manual transmission as standard, AMT as an option. And it will also have the option of CNG, but that's only going to be with the manual transmission. And we know from experience that this engine is creamy smooth to drive. It is extremely easy to live with. And from my experience, we also know that Hyundai is doing a very good job when it comes to tuning their AMTs to be very easy to live with in city traffic. They control the head nod to a large extent. And personally speaking, I'm a very big fan of the Santro's AMT. But Arun, from your perspective, what do you think will be the challenges for the Exter?
Okay, first is a very obvious challenge, and it is the way it looks. For lack of a better term, at least right now from the pictures that we've not seen it in person yet. It's a little too Hyundai.
It's polarizing.
It is polarizing. It's in your face. There are a lot of sharp creases, cuts, garnishes. It is tall. And we've seen this with a lot of these Hyundais that have looked futuristic in the moment, but that design doesn't really tend to age all that well.
True, and by what we've seen from the sketches and the final images that they've put out, we also know that there's a lot of inferences you can make from the design itself, right? For one, they've gone with that boxy SUV style. It's got a very nice and flat bonnet, flat nose. They've got that 8 signature in the DRLs as well as the tail lights. And you can also see that there's a lot of focus when it comes to enhancing the sense of roominess or space inside the cabin, because there's a lot of glass area between the door line and the roof.
Right, so the design, from what we can make of it, seems functional, but it does have something like the Tata Punch and the Citroen C3 to go up against. Both very good looking cars, right? And the second challenge for me then becomes pricing, because the Exter is very well loaded when it comes to features. So when anyone goes into a Hyundai showroom, the pricing needs to be just right enough that the Exter gets picked for its own merit, and the buyer doesn't really make a compromise and say, hey, I'll just pick up a mid-spec Venue or an i20 instead.
Basically, it shouldn't become a situation where it's got a risk of becoming a stepping stone. Because if, say for example, the salesperson is getting more incentive to, literally incentive to sell a Venue versus an Exter, that's what they're going to push for. And this is something we've seen happen with the Santro, for example, right? A lot of customers walked into Hyundai showrooms with the expectation that they would be buying a Santro, but then they drove out with a lower variant of the Nios instead. And that did contribute to the negative impact that finally happened with the Santro.
Right. And finally, the third challenge, and this is, I think, the biggest elephant in the room, and it has to be safety.
Seriously, because let's look at this, the competitors, right? The Tata Punch has scored a full 5 stars in global NCAP's crash safety tests, to the extent that it's done better than the Nexon, even in its final points tally. The Citroen C3 doesn't have a crash safety rating yet, so no comments on that. On this front, Hyundai has not been doing all that well. Let's face certain facts. And this thing is based on the Nios platform, which in itself has only scored 2 stars for adult as well as child occupant protection. So it's not a very good sort of base to start off on. And while my hopes are high for the Exter when it comes to crash safety, my expectations are not.
That's mantra to live your life by. Anyway, that is what we think about the Hyundai Exter. Launch is on the 10th of July, and we'll be driving it around that time. Tell us what you think about the Exter. Tell us what you think of this discussion we had. If you've got any points, leave them in the comments. If you want to argue with us, comment section is your place to be. Don't forget to subscribe to the ZigWheels YouTube channel for more such content. Tushar and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. Bye-bye.